at champions and try and find something that that champion has that they don't have. And he's like, but it's not that at all. He's like, they lack something everyone else has, which is an off button. They just don't stop. And at the end of the day, like, if we're optimizing for outcomes, then the most broken person will win. The person who has the absolute biggest, desire for achievement, the absolute biggest fear or pain that they're running away from, and the hardest impulse control. Now, impulse control, most people would agree is a good thing. The other two, not as much. And so what are we optimizing for? What problem are we solving? It's my favorite. It's probably the number one most frequently asked question that I ask to our portfolio companies whenever we're about to do anything, which is, what problem are we solving? If the problem that we're solving is that I want to be content, well, there's a lot of ways to do that. You don't need to do all these other things. If the problem you're solving is that you want to be the richest man in the world, well, you're going to have a lot of superiority complex. You're going to have a lot of crippling insecurity, and you're going to have a lot of impulse control, and you're going to have to wait a long time.
Well, where do you go to? You wake up on a morning, it's cold, it's wet, it's dark, you've got no cartilage in your knee, you've got shitty shorts, whatever it is that's the issue today.
Keep talking.
You've got these problems, right?
I need you to keep talking about what you were just saying.
It's warm on the couch. Your missus says stay in bed. It's comfy, it's cozy. You've got work later on. You had an argument last night. You're slightly hungover.
Because I know every motherfucker ain't going to do what I'm going to do. So this is how you level up. That's how you level up. I know there's a whole bunch of people with that right there. That fires me up. That makes me fucking happy, what you just said. That brings joy to my life right there.
Why?
Because I know there's so many people that have the ability and just refuse to get off that couch. Refuse to study a few more hours. Refuse to go deeper, to go further. And that's where I gain the advantage. It's so easy to be great nowadays, my friend, because most people are weak. Most people don't want to go to that extra mile. Most people don't want to find that extra because it sucks. It's miserable. It's lonely. You talk about that you were kind of, lonely by yourself. I was the same way. And that used to hurt me growing up. Now I fucking thrive in that shit. That's the only place to be.
Success is the only revenge. As you expand, they shrink into irrelevance. As you get louder, no one can hear them. You don't beat them, you cast a shadow so big, no one can see them to begin with. When people copy, they copy the wrong stuff because they don't know why it worked to begin with. And when it breaks, they don't know how to fix it because they didn't build it. So don't sweat it. Copycats will always be behind.
And I'm walking through the hallway, and this teacher is like an admin of some kind, walks out of his office, and he's like, son. And I was like, you're just in trouble. What am I going to do? And he's like, you work out? And I was like, no. He's like, why not? And I was like, I don't know how. He's like, I'll show you. He's like, you got the genes. And so that teacher, Mr. Goggins, ended up working out with me every day in high school and showed me how to work out. And he probably saw on some level that I was some angsty teenager that felt angry about whatever. And I, during our workout sessions, would be like, this guy said this to me, like, or like this, whatever. And I was like, man, I'm going to come back at our 10-year reunion. And I was like, I'm going to show him. I was like, he's going to be working for me, like blah, 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 right? And he's like, no, he's not. And I was like, what do you mean? I was like, let me just have my moment. Right? He's like, no, he's not. He's like, and you're not going to do that. Not if I have anything to say about it when you come back for that 10-year reunion. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because if you come back at a 10-year reunion and say, hey, John, like everything I have, look at me now. He's like, the guy's going to laugh and be like, you did all of this to try and prove me wrong? Man, I feel sorry for you. When he said that, when he actually played out what my revenge fantasy was in real life, I realized it looked stupid.
Petty.
Yeah. I looked like the beta in the fucking situation, right? Yeah. And so he was like, the only thing that you can do is win so big that all of them constantly compare themselves to you, and then you'll forget they exist. And that's when he said, success is the only revenge. He's like, it's not the best revenge. He's like, it's the only one. There's no other revenge. Because everything else is petty. Everything else does show that you were thinking about these people all day long, which means they win by default. He's like, all you can do is think about your goal and winning. He's like, and when you win, that's when you become so big that they shrink into irrelevance. You cast a shadow that no one even can see them behind you.
The real message is we all started from nowhere. I mean, we all had bullshit jobs. We all felt like losers. But through time and effort, you build a stronger human. You build a stronger body. You build a stronger mind. You build accomplishments and will and momentum. And then you look back and you go, hey, man, I'm not washing tables anymore. You know, I'm not washing dishes. I'm not cutting lawns. I'm not digging ditches.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a different person now, but I used to be.
And these desire not to be there, but not to stay in it. That's what.
That's the hardest part, right? Is to get out of that rut. When you ain't got shit and there's nothing going on, to have faith then is so difficult. To have faith when you're successful, it's like, listen, bitch, you've been successful for a while. Of course you got faith. Just keep doing what you're doing.
That's easy.
It's like
absolutely right.
It's like you already got up the hill. Now you're just coasting.
Yeah.
You know, you're just rolling down the hill. Everything's great.
That's the easy
It's all
part.
smooth sailing.
Yep.
The hard part is getting up that fucking hill. Especially if you got a dad you're hiding from. Especially if you feel like you're a loser or you never really had anything in your life that you could look back on and say, hey, I was really good at that. You know, and there's a lot of people out there listening to this. There's so many people that are in that starting point. Like the people that come up to you and say, I don't know what to do. What should I do? How do I do it?
Yeah.
How do I get going? But you're going to have to figure it out, one foot in front of the other.
Exactly.
You're going to have to find a thing and keep working at it and get better at it. That's one of the things that I like so much about martial arts. They let anybody in.
Yep.
Anybody in. And then from learning how to do that, you get better. And then you realize, damn, I can get better at anything.
Yeah.
Because the first time I ever did jiu-jitsu, I remember just being manhandled so bad, going, man, I'll never be good at this. This is terrible. I'm fucking awful at this. And this is, I'd already been a black belt in Taekwondo and already kickboxed, already did a bunch of shit. And I was like, I can't believe I'm starting from scratch again.
Yeah.
But at least I knew then that I already done that before. I'd already started from scratch.
Exactly.
So like I had some experience and started from scratch. I'm like, all I have to do is just put in the time and the effort here.
The desire to get better.
Yeah, that's for everybody. Just find a thing.
Everything.
People only root for people who don't need it. Like the amount of times when I was on my lonely path where I was too different from the friends that I had, but not successful enough to be friends with the people that I wanted to be friends with. That's when you want people to root for you. That's when you want people to support you. Once you've already won, people are like, he's amazing, he's so good. But like, that's the time when you need it the least. And so you always have to be the person who roots for you before everyone else does. And it's usually a single clap in the auditorium for a very long period of time. It is a slow clap that's just you rooting for you. And that visual, I think, is one that you can kind of take because it is. People struggle to do things alone. And the path of the exceptional person is one of an exception, which means that you are not with other people. And rather than fighting that or bemoaning it, see it as an indicator that you're on the right path. Because if everyone else were cheering you on, then it means you're not in the right place, because it means you're just like everyone else, and that's not where you want to be.
What do you think most people get wrong about motivation?
They think it's a permanent fix. They think it's something that is a constant. They think that maybe once I get it, I'm gonna hold on to it. And that's the thing about that I was telling you, that I always talk about. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is permanent. And a lot of times you have to learn to perform without motivation. You have to learn to perform without purpose. You have to learn to perform a lot of different things. And that's what people think. They think I need to have this motivation to work out, to study, to be better. So if they don't have it, they just don't fucking do it. And that's where you fail. You have to learn to train your mind well beyond motivation. If you have motivation, that's great. That's some kindling to the fire. All it takes is a little bit of fucking spark, you can burn the whole forest up. But motivation, you have to learn to exist without it. You have to be your best self when you're least motivated. And that's the tricky part about all that shit. Motivation is just a word. You have to have these different things in your mind on where you want to go and know that motivation is not going to get me there, because I'm not going to always be motivated.